Let's see, I'm going to get my list out here. Increasing civil unrest, check. Rise of third-party politics, check. First exposed, and then the decline of the establishment media, check. Demise of the European Union, check. Donald Trump wins Republican nomination, check. Trump defeats Clinton, check. We're watching every major theme discussed on Money Talks play out. And if you're interested, I'll tell you the next one, the pension crisis. To the U.S. election. My first really angry email regarding the U.S. election happened in June in the aftermath of the Brexit vote, when I said that the anti-establishment movement is gaining such momentum that if I had to bet, I would put my money on Trump. And you should have seen some of the emails just a few weeks ago when Martin Armstrong said that his computer model was pointing to a Trump victory. Now, I suspect that these people don't know the difference between their own opinion and analysis. I hate to be the one to break the news, but this election was not about you, and it was not about me. Our opinions make no difference whatsoever. And that's really tough, by the way, for the "it's all about me" generation to swallow. But it's easy to verify. I'll give you an example personally. Every stock I ever bought, my opinion was that it should go up. But sadly, and at times expensively, that didn't happen. My opinion made no difference. And I think it's a pretty safe bet that reality has not always followed your opinions either. So what's important here? Well, the main theme that I continue to talk about, the primary trend impacting your finances, economy, and politics over the next decade, actually maybe up to 15 years, is the loss of confidence and the rising distrust in government. And that's just what we saw in the U.S. election. That proved to be an impossible theme to understand for virtually everyone in the mainstream media because they're part of the establishment. The U.S. election was just the latest example, but was also one that showed the extreme establishment bias of the media. They bought the Democrats and Republican elites' agenda, hook, line, and sinker. They weren't fazed a bit, for example, when the Democratic elites decreed there would be no competition. There'd only be one choice for their nominee, Hillary Clinton, the result of a backroom deal in 2008. Yeah, I know Bernie Sanders ran, but he was an independent, literally, until he filed his nomination papers. And then when he proved to have staying power, the Democratic National Committee undermined his campaign to such an extent that the head, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, was forced to resign. It didn't become a big story in Canada because it would hurt their narrative. And then the press didn't even blink when she was immediately hired by the Clinton campaign. Maybe paid off's a better word. But the relentless revelations of lies and unethical behavior of Hillary Clinton and even possible criminal activity in the Clinton Foundation barely rated a mention. Yet only one newspaper, the Chicago Tribune, agreed with us on Money Talks that neither candidate had the character to be president and was worthy of our support. But as I mentioned, on more than one occasion, what we witnessed with the Clinton campaign and the media commentariat is either profound arrogance, everyone thinks like me, or maybe they're just so out of touch not to understand the plight of so many Americans. The most telling moment, and I think the biggest mistake of the campaign, was when Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump supporters deplorable. That was not a slip of the tongue. I believe she actually believes that. And again, that didn't make the progressive left that dominates the media even hesitate. I think Money Talk's probably the only outlet that mentioned that several times. Because these people have been marginalized, and they fought back. A while ago, I said well-known leftist Michael Moore had his finger on the pulse far more than anyone in Canada, like the Globe and Mail's pathetic coverage, or the 100 major newspapers that endorsed Clinton. In the aftermath, he said, in quotes, "Everyone must stop saying they're stunned and shocked. What you mean to say is that you're in a bubble and aren't paying attention to your fellow Americans and their despair. Years of being neglected by both parties. The anger and the need for revenge against the system only grew." Bernie Sanders agreed. He said in quotes, "Donald Trump tapped into an anger of a declining middle class that is sick and tired of establishment economics, establishment politics, and establishment media," end of quote. Well, I continue to say, welcome to the age of consequences. I want to be clear, I never thought a Trump victory was necessary to confirm what I'm looking at, which is the decline in confidence in government. This trend has another 15 years to run. So what I was looking for was whether or not there was an increase in the number of people willing to say screw you to both the Republican and Democratic Party elites since 2012. And the answer is obviously yes, because they have in spades. And both the Democrat and Republican establishments will never be the same. And as for the mainstream media, I've come out of this election and the multiple revelations of direct collusion between members of the mainstream media and the Clinton campaign with a new level of distrust. And I suspect I'm not alone. Well, there's so much more to say about the election, there's not much point. We stopped listening and discussing issues, especially politics, a long time ago. A lack of respect for differing opinions is what fuels the divide that is the underlying motivation for this week's violence at some of the anti-Trump protests. But I suggest it would have been the same, just different people, if Clinton had won. For all the talk about diversity, we show absolutely no tolerance for diversity of opinions. I mean, come on, think about this. People like Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and David Suzuki want to put people in jail for questioning even the smallest detail of the global warming agenda. On university campuses, they threaten violence to prevent people like Condoleezza Rice and Ayaan Hirsi Ali from speaking. Come on. This is the underlying cause of one of our main themes. Yeah, we see the decline in confidence in government, distrust in government, but there's another one, the rise in civil violence. We've been talking about it since 2013. And it brings me back to the line that I said in the beginning of 2015. Welcome to the age of consequence. What's happened in the U.S. election is not a fluke. It was not by chance. The trends were predictable. Maybe not the exact outcome, but the trend was predictable. And there's so much more